What's going on, Buffs Nation? What's going on, Big 12? Happy to have y'all here. Thank you for checking out my channel. We got a lot to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's next for college football conference realignment. We're going to talk about who might be possibly joining the Big 12 now that Colorado is joining next year. But want to take care of a couple housekeeping items. Tomorrow, I have an interview at 2 p.m. Mountain Time with none other than Prime Sports Media. So y'all be sure to check that out and RSVP to that. Throw the link here in the description. Also, we have another big watch party happening today. I think I have it set for 6:20 Mountain Time today. That's with five-star cornerback Charles Lester announcing his commitment on where he's going to play football. Seems like it's down to FSU, Florida State, and our own Buffs, Coach Prime, and all that. So I'm pumped for that. And of course, this show is sponsored by my apparel partner, Yo Martez. Use the code SCOBuffs for 10% off your apparel orders. All right, so there are about 4 teams that I think are on the Big 12 target list, or maybe 3. We'll talk about the 4th here at the end, but I think there's 3 primary targets. There would be a 4th that I think would be a good add, but it's a little bit more controversial, and I understand that. But let's get into the Tier 1 targets, I feel. University of Oregon and University of Washington, I feel like they kind of go hand in hand. They've been rumored to want to move to the Big 10 for a while now, and it seems like, based on what I have heard, read, listened to, that a partial payout, if they were just a partial member of the Big 10 in this next media cycle, that would still pay more than what being a full member right now of the Big 12 would be. Now, I do think if we do end up getting them, go through a cycle, I think that Oregon and Washington, they're big-time brands with big-time draws out west, and that would put the Big 12 kind of within striking distance, I think, of the SEC and the Big 10 when it comes to the conference strength and getting more money down the line. I think one thing that's working in favor of the Big 12 having a shot with these universities is just the fact that I don't think the Big 10 seems to be that set on expanding any further right now. It seems pretty clear that UCLA and USC do not want Oregon and Washington in the conference right now. And I think I was only able to find this information from 2010. So anybody watching from the Big 10, please let me know if you have updated information. But what I saw was that the conference would need a 70% or above vote in favor of expansion. And when you have 2 schools like USC and UCLA against that, if you're talking about 16 teams, you would need over 12 votes in favor of it, I believe. So, I mean, losing those 2 votes would be crucial. You'd basically need most of the rest of the conference to vote in favor of that, and I don't think that's happening. I do think the Big 10 is more interested in like Notre Dame, for instance, getting them finally in the Big 10. I think that they would be a perfect fit there, or maybe even some of the SEC or the ACC schools rather. But I know that their media deal is kind of all over the place. But I would imagine that they would want to target some schools like Miami and Florida State and Clemson, and maybe kind of go to war with the SEC for some of those brands. We'll have to see. But I think that we're in an advantageous position right now as the conference because we're really the only ones that seem to be interested with open arms, wanting to absorb some of the Pac-12 and more of the Pac-12. SEC doesn't really seem that interested on getting to the Northwest either. I feel like they're pretty happy kind of being more regionally focused, which I like. I like kind of that tradition within the conferences and regionality and all that. But anyways, that's just not where we are now with college athletics. But I think that they would be a fantastic addition, and we'll see if Brett Yormark's able to convince them to come over here, because I would say that even if their goals are to leave for the Big Ten eventually, this next cycle, it's going to be more advantageous, especially since there are no conference exit fees, for them to be in the Big 12, and maybe then we can go to work on making sure that we create the unity that we need moving forward, right? Let's not focus on what could happen in 6, 7 years. Let's focus on the now. Let's get them for now. Now, speaking of that, I think Arizona is probably the most likely to come over here. One, regionality. Two, big time basketball program. Their football program isn't as big, and that's kind of why I have Oregon and Washington above them personally. But I think that they're a shoo-in to join this conference, and it just makes the most sense. The rumors have been tied to them just as much as Colorado has been tied to the Big 12 over the past 6-9 months or so. So I really do think ideally at 13 teams right now, you could get to 16 by grabbing Arizona and then Oregon and Washington if you're able to convince them from the Northwest to say, hey, let's do this. This is your best option moving forward. And man, the conference would be in an extremely strong position moving forward. And then this is the most controversial one. This comes out of more of, I think that they're a strong program, obviously, but not necessarily maybe the biggest media reach compared to where Arizona, Washington, and Oregon are. And that is the University of Utah. Y'all already have BYU, or rather we already have BYU, which is a big time national brand. And I mean, I just think it's hilarious how much, Utah hates the Big 12, or, hates BYU, doesn't want to be in a conference with BYU. Doesn't seem like BYU even wants Utah here. But honestly, I don't think that the Big 10 or the SEC is interested in having Utah in their conference because, they're a smaller brand. But, man, they're a really darn good football team. And what I want to see, I think what makes good TV, from my perspective, is having really good competitive teams all the time, and Utah is a darn good team, and that's why I'd want to see them in the conference, particularly from a football perspective. They are the Pac-12 champions the last back-to-back, or the last 2 years back-to-back, and they would be a strong addition for increasing the level of quality of play that the Big 12 will have, particularly in football. Now, Utah's in a tough position because you kind of wish that they would have maybe kept those doors open or created more relationship with the Big 12, because if the Big 12 doesn't really want them, or let's say these other schools above them on my priority list end up joining, that leaves kind of Utah on the outs. I don't know if the Big 12 would want to expand already to 17 or 18 teams, although I think that would be interesting if they're the first one to get to 20, because that's where we're going. It's for this super conference model, right? But that might leave them in a really tough position where you might be stuck in the Pac, which might merge with the Mountain West, because Mountain West schools can't leave for the Pac-12 without paying like $30-something million in exit fees now. But there's nothing stopping Pac schools from leaving to join the Mountain West next year, because they won't have any exit fees. But maybe you just do that merger. Maybe the Pac merges with the ACC, and that's something that could keep Utah and some of these other schools alive. But I don't know. We'll see. I want to know your thoughts on this, on who you think is the most likely 3 teams to join, or, who do you want to join as the next 3 teams. But I'm hoping that that's the direction that we go in. Again, thank you so much for checking out my video. Hit that subscribe, and I'm going to look forward to seeing y'all later today for Charles Lester's announcement, and then tomorrow for my interview with Prime Sports Media. So hit that like, let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, go Buffs.